If you're going to talk about race, at least know what you're talking about. At least know what you're talking about. Well, tell me how much you know about being black.
Well, this isn't about being black.
Well, but you just said you just made all these statements about how black people feel. Tell me how you know that. Yeah, you did.
This is not a book about black people. It is a book about white liberals. And I do know, and this is a fact, that once for years, Republican policies on crime and welfare, for example, were called racist. When they finally got implemented after the O.J. verdict, I might add.
With 40 days until the election, Miss Ann Coulter is back with a new book called Mugged, where she claims that President Obama has abandoned black Americans and that the O.J. Simpson verdict was a great thing for America. Please welcome the very controversial Miss Ann Coulter.
Alright everyone, buckle up because we're diving into a fiery showdown on The View. Ann Coulter, who's no stranger to controversy, goes toe-to-toe with Whoopi Goldberg and the rest of the crew over her new book, Mugged. This clip is definitely on the older side, so all of this stuff is not new, but most of the topics are still relevant today, so we want to cover them. Now, love her or hate her, you've got to admit Ann knows how to push buttons and back it up with some serious facts. What happens when you mix bold truths with a room full of emotional liberal takes? Let's just say Whoopi wasn't ready for this one. Let's get into it.
Ann, all right. Okay, I need you to tell me what you're trying to say in this book. Because we don't know what you're trying to say.
What I'm trying to say is race-mongering has been very bad for America. Liberals use it to promote causes that have nothing to do with blacks and, in fact, harm blacks. And that excellent lead-in you just gave about O.J., I mean, I think that was the moment, having lived near New York City in the 70s and 80s, which was the golden era. It was like Trayvon Martin and Duke lacrosse case every day. With the O.J. verdict, white America said, that's it, the white guilt bank is shut down, and that ended up being the best thing that ever happened to black Americans.
What are you talking about?
I meant that no longer...
Being acquitted was good for who?
Yes, because you had millions of white people watching with the equivalent of what in New York we used to refer to as the Brooklyn juries, who simply would not convict even guilty black criminals, not innocent black criminals.
Hold up, Miss Coulter. Please stop. Please stop. If you're going to talk about race, at least know what you're talking about. At least know what you're talking about. Well, tell me how much you know about being black.
Well, this isn't about being black.
Well, but you just said you just made all these statements about how black people feel. Tell me how you know that. Yeah, you did.
Classic Whoopi right here. Instead of addressing Ann's actual point, she pivots to this lived experience argument, which is just a fancy way of saying, I don't have a counter argument. Listen, I get it. Race is a sensitive topic, but we're not talking about feelings here. We're talking about policy outcomes that affect real people. It's like arguing about what color the sky is while someone's house is on fire, completely missing the point. This is why real discussions about race never go anywhere on these shows. But let's see how Ann handles this dodge.
Not a book about black people, it is a book about white liberals, and I do know, and this is a fact, that once for years, Republican policies on crime and welfare, for example, were called racist. When they finally got implemented after the O.J. verdict, I might add, by Giuliani in New York, Reagan and Bush judges overall, tens of thousands of black lives were saved. That is a fact. I don't have to know about being black.
Because your facts are just a little shaky. I mean, you're saying that because black people, because liberals are what? Because liberals have abandoned black people now because... What? I don't get it. I don't understand.
I don't think liberals ever cared about black people.
Wow, Ann just said what everyone knows, but no one in mainstream media wants to admit. Liberals love to posture as the saviors of black America, but let's look at their track record. Decades of failed policies in education, housing, and criminal justice, and somehow they're still spinning it as progress. It's like that one friend who keeps breaking things in your house and then tells you they're helping. And let's not forget, most of these so-called liberal champions of equality live in gated communities and send their kids to private school. Spare me the lectures, Whoopi. Let me know if you guys would agree down in the comments below.
I mean, 5 minutes after the Civil Rights Act of '64, they start calling everything that has nothing to do with black people a civil rights issue.
Wait a second.
Abortion on demand, homeless rights.
So are you saying that liberals don't care about black people? Then are you saying Republicans embrace us in a warm, fuzzy blanket?
We're not embraced back, but yeah, we tried to.
So wait a minute. So the Southern strategy was a white liberal thing? No, it was a Republican thing.
No.
And also,
No,
Newt
that
Gingrich calls President Obama the food stamp president. That's not racist?
This chapter.
Wait a second.
Do you really think that was? Do you believe it was racist for Newt to say that the president is a food stamp president?
Well, he
Can you
wouldn't
dive
say
into
it
that?
if we could just skip.
I'm not a big fan of Newt, so we could just skip that for a second and get to the Southern strategy.
Yeah.
Because I've specifically disproved it. It's an absolutely liberal folklore. Republicans were winning the South since 1920. It was the outer states of the South. It was Texas, Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia.
Voting. What are you talking about? We weren't
Well,
allowed
who
to
was
vote.
trying to get them to vote? Republicans were.
Yeah,
and, the
but it's true.
first black congressmen were all Republicans. And the first black governor was a
You've been
Republican.
talking about way back.
That
After-
Republican is so different from
No, that is definitely what we're told.
This
But in
Republican isn't
fact,
that bad.
the Democratic segregationists were all liberal Democrats. It is a lie that they were conservative Democrats.
This one stings for the left because it shatters one of their favorite narratives. For decades, they've tried to pin the sins of segregation on conservative Democrats, as if conservatism somehow means racism. But Ann cuts through the propaganda. Segregation was a Democratic project, period. These weren't fringe conservatives, they were liberal Democrats who supported big government and racial division. The Southern strategy myth, it's just that, a myth. This is why liberals hate debating facts. It's easier to create villains than admit their own history.
As a segregationist, darling, and you know,
The
basically,
Republicans weren't.
everybody was. White people were. It didn't matter whether they were
Absolutely
Republicans
were
or
not.
Ask you a question.
The first integrationists. Okay, just read chapter 14 in this book. The first Republicans to be elected in the South.
Listen to my grandmother, who was there, who remembers what
Howard
happened.
Baker, an aggressive integrationist, first Republican elected in Tennessee to the Senate. You have Winthrop Rockefeller, first Republican governor in
But you know, I have a question about today. Let me ask you something about what's going on now. It seems to
But
me...
the Southern strategy is a lie.
It seems to me that voter suppression is happening in areas where black people and Hispanics are, and it really is being promoted by the Republicans, not the Democrats.
Here we go again with the voter suppression talking point. The left loves throwing this around, but what they call voter suppression is really just common sense election integrity. Voter ID laws aren't suppressing votes, they are protecting them. But no, to liberals, asking for ID is somehow racist, even though you need ID to drive, buy alcohol, or even get on a plane. Funny how those aren't considered suppression, right? And let's not ignore the irony here. Some of the strongest voter ID advocates have been black Democrats. Ann's right, this isn't about suppression, it's about ensuring fair elections.
So in my view, and I have a different one from you, it looks as though the Republicans are really going against blacks, not the liberals.
No, and this
What do
is
you
a
say to
perfect
that?
example. Yes, it is, and it's a perfect example. No, I'll explain why. Of liberals using the label of civil rights to promote a liberal cause they support, i.e. voter fraud. In fact, one of the first states in the Union to pass voter ID bills was Rhode Island, 85% Democratic legislature. And who pushed it? A black Democrat in the House, a black Democrat in the Senate. That's a fact.
No, you may pick out Rhode Island, but there are other states where it's completely
Why would black
Republican-driven.
Democrats be pushing this? Because they had seen
Because they
voter
want the
fraud.
Hispanic vote to go to
Can I
Romney.
ask a general question? Every book that you write is very controversial and shocking, and it's usually an opinion that's disparate with everybody else's.
Right.
Do you just write these books and try to find whatever it is that's going to make everybody say,
Well, you don't believe this crap.
The reason, it's an excellent question. The reason I write these books is because I try to correct things that people believe that are just false.
Here's the question
And
for
this
you.
is a lot
This is a question, because I was reading a book,
and you may be the only one that says it, but...
Well, there are a few things. I mean, discovering that we never won the Goldwater states and Republicans didn't win the Dixiecrat states until the Dixiecrats died out.
You keep staying back in the past. You got to come into the present. But this is what I want to say.
That's new to me. The rest of it, other people know.
In reading your book, you know, you keep saying if you would read chapter 14, if you would read, you make such divisive comments and incendiary comments and hateful comments at times. It makes people not want to pick up your book and read it. So
Here we go again. Divisive, incendiary, hateful, these are just buzzwords that the left uses when they don't like what you're saying but can't prove you're wrong. Calling someone's arguments hateful is the intellectual equivalent of plugging your ears and yelling, "I don't like it." And let's be real, if your comments were truly hateful, people wouldn't be debating her books. They'd be dismissed entirely. The truth is, her words make people uncomfortable because they challenge the cozy myths liberals like to live in. That's why people are reading her books, even if the panelists pretend otherwise.
People who agree with her read it.
Yeah, well, people agree with
No,
it.
I don't think so.
You
Name
know,
a hateful comment in here.
you know, when you talk about you stay in the past, that Republican
No,
is
only
back
because
there.
it was brought up. There's only one chapter on the past, and I mean, it's just a
But when you talk
fact.
about something like voter suppression, which
Right.
obviously is trying to keep black people and Latinos,
Republicans have never done that. That was a Democrat thing.
But and it's in states where they don't even have any.
Stop. Let me just, because can I just say one thing, Dan? No matter what, you sit down here and you've got 5 women going, butter.
Yes.
Whatever it is, thank you for coming on.
That should cover this clip, and the real takeaway are debates like this show why liberals avoid facts and rely on feelings. When they can't counter the truth, they shut it out, and honestly, watching Anne keeping her cool while the panel fell apart is half the entertainment. What do you guys think? Did Anna just school the view, or are you buying what Whoopi and the gang are selling? Drop your thoughts down below. Be sure to like and subscribe, really helps out the channel, and we'll see you guys in the next one.